A broken body in the cold wind screamed across the empty plains of Virex-7. Snow fell like soft ash, covering the ground in endless white. The planet had no sun for this season, just cold. Endless cold. On this lifeless surface, something moved, barely. Was small, thin. Shaking, a little alien girl dragged herself through the snow, leaving a trail of blood behind. One of her legs didn't move. Her skin was light blue, cracked from the cold. Her large eyes, once full of life, were now dull and tired. Her name was Rihanna. She had been left behind, thrown out by her own kind. She didn't cry. There were no more tears, only pain and silence. A sound echoed in the distance, a low engine, sputtering like an old machine. The girl lifted her head. It hurt to move, but she forced her eyes toward the sound. A ship, not big, not military. Just a scrapper's craft hold patched together with rusty plates and loud boosters. It landed with a groan a few meters away. Melting the snow with its heat, the ramp dropped with a loud thud. Boots crunched the snow. Out stepped a human. He was tall and wrapped in heavy gear, covered with dust and frost. His helmet hissed open, revealing a tired face with rough features. His name was Jacob. He didn't expect to find anyone here. This was a dead zone, no settlements. No signals, no life. But then he saw her. A small shape, barely moving, covered in snow, eyes half closed. At first, he thought it was a trick, his mind playing games. But no, it was real. An alien child, and she was dying. Jacob's hand hovered over his belt. He had a pistol, just in case. But she didn't move to attack. She didn't even flinch. She looked at him. Those eyes, so quiet, so empty. Jacob stepped closer. The girl tried to crawl away. Her arms trembled. Her broken leg dragged uselessly behind her. Jacob stopped. He knelt down slowly, careful not to scare her. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't understand his words, but she understood his voice. It wasn't cold like the others, not sharp, not cruel. Slowly, Jacob removed one glove and reached out. His hand was rough and warm. The alien girl stared at it. She had never been offered a hand before. She didn't move. Jacob waited. Snow began to gather on his shoulders. The cold bit into his skin, but he didn't pull away. Finally, she reached out. Her small blue fingers touched his hand. It was a moment of silence. Then she collapsed. Jacob caught her before she hit the ground. She was light, fragile, like she hadn't eaten in days. He lifted her carefully and turned toward his ship. Inside, the warmth hit like a wave. He placed her on a small medical bed. She whimpered, curling into herself. Jacob opened his supplies, wrapped her in heat blankets, injected a slow-acting med gel into her leg. Her body twitched, reacting to the chemicals. She was still alive, barely. He sat beside her, watching. Who was she? Why was she here? He tapped into his scanner. No ID. No local signals. Nothing. Whoever she was, she had been abandoned. Maybe cast out. Jacob had seen this before. Not with her species, but with others. Weak children. Born different. Broken. Not strong enough. Thrown away like trash. He clenched his jaw. He hated that he had been broken once. 2. He looked at her again. She was sleeping now, breathing slow. Jacob didn't know what would happen tomorrow. Maybe her people would come. Maybe someone would try to take her. But for now, she was safe. And for now, he wasn't going to let her die. Not like this. Outside, the cold howled louder, as if angry. But inside the ship, for the first time in a long time, there was warmth. The human, and the outcast. The girl woke up screaming. Jacob jumped from his seat. nearly knocking over his stool. The sound was sharp half growl, half cry, like an injured animal. She sat up fast, eyes wide with fear, body shaking. Under the thermal blanket, her breathing was heavy, her arms flailed, trying to fight invisible hands. "No," she cried, in her own language. "Not again, not again." Jacob raised both hands. "Easy, you're safe. No one's here but me." Of course, she didn't understand his words. Her eyes darted to him, filled with panic. She pushed herself backward, away from the bed, her small frame bumping into the steel wall behind her. Her injured leg dragged awkwardly, blood-stained. The wrappings again. Jacob didn't move closer. He sat down slowly, showing his palms. She stopped moving. Her chest rose and fell like she had run a mile. Her glowing blue eyes locked onto his dot. Jacob pointed to himself. "Jacob." Then he pointed to her. "You?" She looked away. She didn't answer. Jacob tried again. "Name?" After a long pause, she whispered, "Rihanna." Oh, the way she said. It sounded like a name she hadn't spoken in a long time, like it hurt to remember it. Jacob smiled gently. "Rihanna, too." She didn't smile back. He stood, walked to the supply unit, and began preparing a warm broth. Simple, plant-based soup with energy powders, something light, easy to digest. As it cooked, he glanced back at her. She was still sitting against the wall. Legs tucked close to her chest, watching him like a cornered animal. Jacob placed the bowl on a tray and pushed it toward her without getting too close. Rihanna didn't move. "Food," Jacob said, miming eating. "For you?" She stared at it, then at him. Slowly, she reached out, sniffed it, and took a cautious sip. Her eyes widened. She drank more, faster now, like she hadn't eaten in days. "Maybe weeks," Jacob chuckled softly. "You've got an appetite." She didn't understand the words, but she noticed the tone. It wasn't mocking, it wasn't harsh. She looked up at him again. This time, not with fear, with curiosity. For the next few days, they didn't speak much. They couldn't, but they found a rhythm. Jacob gave her space. He cleaned and changed her bandages every day, even when she hissed or growled in pain. He built her a soft bed in the back corner of the ship and installed a translator device near her side. She didn't trust it at first, but over time, she began to listen. One morning, she spoke through the translator. "You are not afraid of me." Jacob looked up from his toolkit. "Should I be?" She didn't answer. She stared at the wall for a long time, then said quietly, "Others were." Jacob stopped working. He stood and walked to her bed. Sat on the floor beside her, not too close. "I've seen worse," he said. "You're not a monster, Rihanna." She blinked. No one ever said that before. Her voice was so soft, it was barely there. Jacob leaned back. "I say it now." Later that night, as Jacob checked the ship's outside sensors, he noticed something strange. Movement, far off, near the mountain ridge. Something had passed. Too large for local animals. Too fast for wind. He narrowed his eyes and zoomed in. Nothing, but he had a feeling someone was looking for her. He turned toward the sleeping girl. She looked peaceful now, tucked in a blanket. Soft lights around her. Whoever left her to die might not be done yet. He clenched his jaw. He wasn't going to let her be taken again. Not while he still had breath. The next day, Rihanna spoke again. "My people, we don't help the weak. We abandon them." Jacob frowned. "That's not right. It is the rule." He shook his head. "Rules like that deserve to be broken." Rihanna tilted her head. "Then why did you save me? I am broken. I am not useful." Jacob looked straight into her eyes. "You're alive." That's enough reason. Tears welled up in her glowing blue eyes. She turned away, hiding her face. No one had ever told her that before. Not her parents, not her elders, not even her teachers. Only this human. This stranger, Jacob, didn't need her to be strong. He just needed her to be okay. And for the first time in her life, she believed she could be. Silent Nights and Strange Dreams Night had returned to VIREX-7. Not that the day looked much different. The planet's dim skies always looked gray. But at night, the silence grew deeper. Even the wind sounded tired. Inside the scrapper ship, it was quiet. Rihanna lay still in her bed, eyes closed but not sleeping. The pain in her leg had lessened. Jacob's medicines helped, but something inside her still hurt, something that bandages could not heal. She dreamed almost every night now, but the dreams were not good ones. They came in pieces. Shattered memories. The faces of tall aliens with cold eyes. Voices whispering, not worth saving. A hand pushing her out of a ship, leaving her in the snow. The last thing she remembered was falling. She would wake up suddenly, heart racing, her thin body sweating under the blanket. Jacob always heard her. He would sit nearby, quietly, pretending to work on broken tools. He never asked her about the dreams. He just stayed close until she calmed down, and that meant more than words. One evening, Jacob brought her something strange, a small metal box with blinking lights. "What is it?" Rihanna asked softly through the translator. Jacob smiled. "Something I used when I was a kid. It plays music." "Music?" He pressed a button. The box came to life, playing soft notes, slow and warm. No words, just a quiet melody that felt like a memory. Rihanna had never heard anything like it. Her people didn't make music. They only sang in battle, shouted in training. But this was soft, gentle. She listened, her body still, her eyes closing slowly. Jacob watched her for a moment, then returned to his workbench. That night, she slept without nightmares. Days passed, and a strange peace grew between them. Rihanna began to move around more, dragging her injured leg carefully. Jacob made her a simple cane from scrap. She practiced walking inside the ship, falling many times, but never giving up. "You're stubborn," Jacob said one day, chuckling. Rihanna tilted her head. "Is that a good thing?" Jacob nodded. "The best kind of thing." She smiled. Just a little. It was her first smile. One afternoon, while Jacob fixed a broken scanner, Rihanna asked a question. "Why did you come here, Jacob?" "This world has nothing." Jacob paused. He looked out the small window at the cold plains. "I was running," he said quietly. "From what? From people? From war? From myself, maybe." Rihanna looked confused. "You were a warrior." He nodded once. "I fought in battles, but I got tired of killing. So I left." She thought about that. "But you helped me. Isn't that still fighting?" Jacob looked at her and smiled. "Helping someone live is different than fighting to destroy. You'll understand someday." She looked down, holding her cane tightly. "Maybe I already do." But not all was quiet. That same night, Jacob noticed movement on the scanner. Not shadows this time, heat signatures. At least 3, coming from the northeast ridge. Moving slowly, carefully. Watching, he closed the scanner and glanced at Rihanna. She sat on the floor, fixing one of the old music boxes. Her hands were getting steadier. He didn't want to worry her. Not yet, but deep inside, he knew someone was tracking her. Someone who wanted her gone. Later that night, Jacob couldn't sleep. He sat near the ramp, cleaning his old plasma cutter. It barely worked now, but it was all he had. Rihanna limped over and sat beside him. She said nothing for a while, watched him. Then she asked, "Do you miss your home?" Jacob looked at the cutter in his hands. "Sometimes, but I've learned something important." "What?" "Home isn't a place. It's the people who don't give up on you." Rihanna blinked. She looked at her own hands. Then maybe. I never had a home until now. Jacob turned to her, surprised, but he didn't say anything. He just nodded, and in the cold silence of VRX-7, under a metal roof, a bond was growing quiet, strong and unbreakable. What neither of them knew was this: soon, the people who left her behind would return, and they wouldn't come in peace. Asterisk. The ones who threw her away the next morning felt different. The cold outside was the same. The sky was still gray. But the air carried something else. Now something that made Jacob's skin itch under his coat. Danger. He didn't tell Rihanna right away. She was sitting cross-legged near the heat panel, building a tiny figure out of scrap. It looked like a human holding hands with a small alien girl. Jacob stared at it for a moment. His chest tightened. She had changed. She wasn't the scared, broken creature he had found in the snow. Not anymore, and that made him even more afraid, because someone wanted to take that away. Later that day, the scanner beeped again. This time, it was clear 3 figures, large and fast, moving closer. Their heat signatures were steady. Their patterns were too smooth for local beasts. They were trained. Jacob zoomed in with his telescope. He saw them, armored, tall, sharp-angled suits with glowing emblems on the chest. Their helmets had black visors. No emotion, no pause, no hesitation. Rihanna's people. He knew it immediately. He had seen this kind of silence before in hunters, in killers, in execution squads. These weren't rescuers, they were cleaners. Sent to erase mistakes. Sent to finish what they started. Jacob shut off the telescope and turned away. His mind raced. He couldn't fight them head-on. He had no real weapons, just old tools, a half-working plasma cutter, and maybe a few traps he could make with his junk pile. But he couldn't run either. Rihanna wasn't strong enough to survive the wilds again. And even if they got to orbit, they'd be tracked. He looked over at her. She was still working on the tiny statue, humming softly. Her cane beside her. He hated what he had to do next. That night, he finally told her, "They're coming, Rihanna." She looked up, confused. Who? Your people. Or at least someone from them. I think they're here to finish you. Her eyes darkened. Her hands clenched the small statue. They always finish what they call weak, she whispered. They think it keeps the race pure. Jacob nodded. We don't have much time. If we stay here, we'll both die. She looked around the ship. Then, where do we go? Jacob opened a panel on the floor and pulled out an old map, scratched, torn, but still readable. There's an old mining station in the southern cliffs, abandoned. If we get there, we can hide. Rihanna was quiet. Then she asked, "Why don't you just leave me?" Jacob didn't even blink. Because I already chose to be the kind of man who doesn't do that. She didn't cry, but she looked at him with a kind of respect she had never shown anyone. Then I choose to stay and fight, she said. Jacob raised an eyebrow. Fight? I can help. You fix machines. I watched you. I learned. He hesitated, but deep inside, he knew she was ready. Not to fight like a soldier, but to survive like a fighter. The next few hours were fast. Jacob set traps near the outside ridge tripwires made from coil wire, mini grenades made from power cells. Not enough to kill, but enough to confuse. Rihanna worked inside, setting up motion sensors, reprogramming drones to act like decoys. Even hacking the ship's broken comes to act as a loudspeaker. They worked without stopping, side by side, no fear now, only purpose. When the sun dipped low behind the mountains, the world turned dark again. The wind howled, and the hunters arrived. The first trap triggered near the east corner. A blast of heat and light shot into the air. The sound echoed across the plains. Jacob checked the scanner. 2 figures had separated. They were trying to flank the ship. The third came straight down the center path. Smart, Jacob whispered. They're trained. Kana stayed at the rear panel, watching the motion sensors. She pointed. He's getting close. Jacob picked up his plasma cutter. I'll try to scare him off. Rihanna looked at him. No, let me. Before he could stop her, she activated the speaker system. The voice that came out was not hers. It was deep, metallic, full of static and power. This unit is protected. Retreat, ORB, destroyed. The hunter paused only for a second, then kept coming. Jacob looked at Rihanna. She was already moving too. Plan B, activating a drone to fly in a random pattern, drawing fire. The first shot came bright. Deadly dot, the drone exploded. But the hunter didn't fire again. He was searching for the girl. Jacob whispered, he's not here for me, only you. Rihanna stood up, leaning on her cane. Then I'll show him I'm not that same girl anymore. When the fire fell, the first explosion shook the ground. Jacob ducked as a piece of ceiling clanged down behind him. Sparks rained from a broken panel, filling the room with smoke. The traps had worked, but not well enough. They're in. Rihanna shouted, leaning on her cane. Eyes locked on the motion scanner. All 3. Jacob pulled her toward the back of the ship. Time to move. No, she said. We stay. Arena, I know this ship. I know the systems. You trust me? Jacob stared at her, then nodded. RII single quotes, Na limped to the control panel. She entered a few commands. Outside, 2 drones activated, tiny machines barely working. They flew up and away, buzzing loud. The enemy wouldn't chase them, but maybe they'd shoot at them. That would buy time. Then came the sound of boots. On metal, thud, thud, thud. One of them was inside the ship. Jacob held up the plasma cutter. It flickered with weak energy. He cursed softly. Hide. He whispered to Rihanna, but she didn't hide. She stood behind him. Silent. The hunter entered through the hallway, tall, armored, glowing eyes behind a dark mask. His hands carried a long staff with a crackling energy blade. He spoke in their harsh tongue. Rihanna flinched. Jacob said nothing. The hunter looked past him. At her. The weapon hummed louder. Jacob stepped between them. The hunter tilted his head. Move, human. She belongs to us. Jacob's jaw tightened. She belongs to no one. The hunter took a step forward. Jacob raised the plasma cutter. I won't ask again. The hunter moved fast. A blur of armor and light. The weapon struck. Jacob blocked with the cutter. It sparked wildly. He stumbled back, the weapon nearly tearing his arm off. Run, Jacob yelled. But Rihanna didn't run. She hit the control panel. A shock trap under the floor activated. The floor burst with electricity. The hunter screamed, armor sparking. He dropped his weapon and fell to his knees. Jacob didn't wait. He swung the cutter again, striking the hunter's helmet. It cracked. The alien fell, groaning. Silence. Jacob panted, holding his shoulder. It was bleeding badly now. You okay? He asked. Rihanna nodded. You? I'll live. Not far away, another explosion rang out. A second hunter had triggered another trap outside. But the third one. He was smart. He was close. They moved quickly. Rihanna helped Jacob as he limped through the hall. Blood stained the floor. Jacob's breathing was heavy. You need rest, she said. No time. They reached the lower storage bay, a place filled with old mining gear. Kana had an idea. She grabbed a power drill from the wall, modified it earlier to charge faster. It wasn't a weapon, but it could hit hard. Hide behind the crate, Jacob said. If he comes, wait for my signal. No, she said. We fight together. Before Jacob could argue, the last hunter dropped into the bay. He didn't speak, he charged. Jacob swung the cutter, but the hunter ducked. A punch sent Jacob flying into the wall. Riona screamed. The hunter turned toward her. His mask had no eyes, but she felt his hate. You were broken, the hunter said. You should not have lived. Riona stood tall. I'm still broken, she said. But I am not weak. She activated the drill. It whirred with a loud, angry sound. The hunter charged again. She waited, then dodged. He missed. Slammed into a metal crate. She swung the drill, hitting the side of his helmet. Sparks flew. He roared and grabbed her arm. Pain shot through her. But then Jacob rose, with the last of his strength. He tackled the hunter from behind. Now, Riona. She didn't hesitate. She plunged the drill into the back of the hunter's armor. Metal cracked. Sparks exploded. The hunter screamed once, then fell. Dead silence filled the ship again. Jacob collapsed beside her. Blood pooled under him. No. Jacob, she cried, dropping to her knees. His eyes blinked slowly. I'm fine, he whispered. Just ... need a nap. She cried, for real this time. Tears spilled down her cheeks. You protected me, she said. Again, Jacob smiled weakly. That's what ... family does. Then he passed out. Hours later, the sun rose. Riona sat beside Jacob's bed, watching him sleep. His wounds were wrapped. His breathing was steady. She had cleaned his blood. She had fixed his cutter. She had even dragged the hunter bodies far away. She had done everything he taught her, and something had changed. She looked at her hands. They still shook. Her legs still ached. But her heart, it was strong. No more running, no more hiding. Next time, she would be ready, and she would protect him. A broken world. A new bond. Days passed like slow wind over the frozen plains. Inside the ship, warmth returned little by little. The heaters hummed quietly. The lights flickered softly. Riona walked from corner to corner, fixing broken wires, replacing burned panels, and adjusting solar feeds. She was learning fast, faster than Jacob expected. But Jacob wasn't watching much anymore. He was in bed, his wounds deep, his body weak. Every movement hurt him. The fight with the hunters had drained everything. But Riona never left his side. She cooked him simple food, helped him sit up, changed his bandages with steady hands. She even spoke to him now without fear, without silence. You gave me life, she whispered one night. I'll keep you alive. Jacob smiled faintly. Deal. On the 7th day, Jacob sat up for the first time without help. Riona cheered softly. You're recovering fast, because my nurse is scary, Jacob said with a chuckle. She narrowed her eyes playfully. Say that again, and I'll feed you burnt moss soup. Jacob laughed, then winced as his ribs complained. Their laughter echoed across the ship, a sound that hadn't existed before. But beneath the smiles, both of them knew something. This wasn't over. If 3 hunters had found her, more would come. Riona no longer limped as badly. She still used her cane, but her steps were quicker, stronger. She began training daily, not with weapons, but with tools. Wrenches, drills, salvage servos. She built and rebuilt, turning the scrap into systems, the pieces into purpose. She even made a personal shield unit, a small one, enough to block a single hit. It flickered and cracked, but it worked. Jacob watched her from the workbench. You've changed. I'm still me, she said. No, Jacob said. You're more. She looked at her hands. I was left behind because I was less. But now I build. I protect. I feel. She looked at Jacob. You gave me that. Jacob nodded slowly. And you gave me a reason to keep going. She tilted her head. You were lost too. Worse, he said. I stopped believing in people until I found a half-frozen kid in the snow who refused to give up. She smiled, and for the first time it reached her eyes. That night, they sat near the heater, watching the stars through a tiny window. The sky of Eric 7 was strange stars twisted by the cold air. Moons blinking through clouds like slow-moving eyes. Riona asked, "Do you miss Earth?" Jacob thought for a long time, then said, "Not really." "Why not, Ava?" "Why not? Earth was where I was born. But here, with you, that feels more like home." Rihanna grew quiet, then whispered, "Then I'm glad I didn't die in the snow." Jacob didn't answer. He just gently squeezed her hand. The next morning, a strange signal buzzed through the ship. Rena rushed to the console. It wasn't a distress call. It was a warning. 3 words, repeated in her language: "She survived. Confirmed." Her hands trembled. Jacob leaned over. "What does it mean?" she translated. He stared at her. "They're watching," he said. "From space, maybe. They told someone. Maybe my clan." Jacob stood slowly. "Then they'll come. In force. Not 3, next time." Dozens, Rihanna nodded. "They'll want to finish the job, publicly." Jacob's mind raced. "Then we don't wait." He opened a hidden drawer. Inside was a beacon, covered in dust. "What's that?" Rihanna asked. "Something I never planned to use. It calls the old Earth Alliance patrols. Takes days to respond if they're even close." She looked surprised. "You worked with Earth soldiers once. Long ago, before I gave up on war." He activated the beacon. It pulsed once. Now, someone would come. Friend or enemy. They didn't know, but Jacob had made his decision. They wouldn't fight alone. The next few days became preparation. They moved the ship into a rocky cave near the southern cliffs, hidden from above. The path was hard, but Rihanna's cane was no longer needed. She walked on her own now. Jacob, still sore, taught her survival tricks: trap placement, signal jamming, heat masking. She taught him her people's tech, how to twist energy circuits into traps, how to reroute scanners, how to fake life signs. They became a team, not just human and alien, something deeper, something like family. One evening, as a soft wind blew outside the cave, Jacob handed Rihanna a small box. She opened it. Inside was a folded cloth, old, worn, with a symbol of Earth's explorers on it. Jacob said, "This was my brother's." Rihanna looked at him, confused. "He died in the war," Jacob said. "I carried this to remind me who I used to be." She touched it gently. Jacob continued, "Now I want you to have it." Her eyes widened. "But I didn't even know him." "You don't have to," Jacob said. You remind me of what he believed, that even broken people can become heroes." Rihanna held the cloth to her chest and whispered, "Then I'll carry his memory with mine." Jacob smiled. The cold wind outside meant nothing now. Inside that cave, something had begun. A hope, a fire, a reason to stand and fight again. The child they forgot now, a force to fear the warship, arrived at dawn, dark, sharp and silent. It hovered above the cliffs like a black blade in the sky. No warnings, no signals, just presence. They didn't come to talk. They came to finish what they had started. Inside the rocky cave, Jacob stood quietly, looking up at the growing shadow. His arm was bandaged. His breath was steady, but slow. He had spent the last 3 days preparing for this moment. Beside him stood Rihanna. No longer small, no longer afraid. She wore armor made from scavenged plates fitted to her shape. On her arm was the personal shield she had built. In her hand an energy staff, pulsing softly. Her legs still carried the scar of that cold night in the snow. But now she stood tall, unshaken. Jacob looked at her and asked, "You sure you want to do this?" Rihanna nodded. "They left me to die. I need them to see who I became." Jacob smiled. "Then let's make sure they never forget." The enemy didn't send foot soldiers this time. They sent elite hunters, 9 of them. Faster, stronger, better armed. They landed just outside the cave entrance. One stepped forward. His armor was marked with golden lines. A leader, he spoke in their native tongue, voice echoing through a speaker. "Rihanna of the Shalkor, you were cast out. You were declared unworthy. You are not to be remembered." Rihanna stepped into the sunlight. The wind caught her cloak. Cain was gone. "I don't want to be remembered by you," she said. "I want to be remembered by the ones who choose kindness." The leader raised his weapon. "You stand with a human. You've learned weakness." "No," she replied. "I learned strength, real strength." Behind her, Jacob activated the cave's defense panel. Hidden energy turrets popped from rocks. His traps were ready. Rihanna raised her staff, and the fight began. The first 2 hunters rushed forward. Rihanna moved fast, dodging left. Her staff crackled with blue light as she spun it low, sweeping the legs of the first attacker. He crashed to the ground. She struck his helmet with a sharp jab, sparks bursting as his visor cracked. The second grabbed her arm too strong, but Jacob fired from behind, hitting the hunter's back with a jolt cannon. The alien screamed and stumbled. "R-I-I, single quotes, nah," broke free and leaped back. The next wave came, for more spreading out. Circling, Jacob cursed. "Let them," Rihanna shouted. She activated her shield and ran forward straight. Into the leader, he met her strike with his own. Their staffs clashed, lighting up the air. Energy flew in all directions. The ground shook beneath them. "You are nothing," he hissed, a broken thing pretending to be whole. Rihanna gritted. Her teeth, "It's better broken with love than whole with cruelty." She flipped her staff, struck low. Then high, the leader blocked, but barely. She was faster than he remembered. She was better inside the cave. Jacob triggered the explosives. 2 hunters went flying off the cliff's edge, their bodies swallowed by the wind. Another fell to one of the energy turrets, fired clean through the chest. But Jacob was slowing down. His wound reopened. Blood soaked through his side. Still, he kept fighting. Because she was out there. Because he believed in her. Rihanna's shield sparked. It had taken too many hits. She dropped it and kept moving. Sweat rolled down her face. Her muscles screamed. But she didn't stop. She remembered being left in the snow. She remembered being called useless. She remembered the hand that reached out, the warmth, the second chance, and that gave her strength. She struck the leader's helmets once. A crack appeared, with a final scream. She slammed the end of her staff into the crack. The helmet shattered. She saw his eyes, cold, angry, afraid. "You should have died." He gasped. "I did," she said, "but I came back different." She turned the staff to full power and struck his chest. His body flew backward, landing hard. He didn't move again. The other hunters froze. They had seen enough. Their leader was down. Their numbers were broken, and standing before them was the one they had thrown away. Not weak, not forgotten, but powerful. They backed away, boarded their ship, and left. No more words, no more fight. They had lost. Later, when the sun was high, Rihanna returned to the cave. Jacob was lying down, pale but smiling. "You did it," he whispered. "We did it," she corrected. Kneeling beside him, You know, he said, they'll remember this. I don't want to be feared, she said. I just want to be free. He reached into his coat and pulled out an old patch with Earth's Explorer emblem. You should wear this, he said. She looked at it, then at him. I'll wear it, she said. But not just for Earth. For us, he smiled. And this time, it wasn't sad. It was proud. Weeks later, a patrol ship arrived from the Outer Rim. When they scanned the cave, they found only 2 life signs. One human, injured but stable. One alien girl standing tall, waiting for them. Armor shining in the light. She gave them a message to send. To anyone listening, I was left to die, but I lived. Not because of my people, because of a human. If you think kindness is weakness, you're wrong. I'm the proof. And with that, her story began to spread. Across systems, across species, the girl who was forgotten had become a name, and the human who held out his hand, he became her legend.